The debris field drifted silently through the void, a graveyard of shattered starships and shattered lives. Lying among the wreckage was a single-life pod, barely intact, its hull scorched and dented from the battle that had torn the sector apart. Cale Varon, an engineer for the Interstellar Transport Consortium, navigated his small repair vessel with careful precision. He had no business here, not officially. The official fleet had long since declared the system a lost zone, too dangerous for civilians or salvage crews. But Cale had heard the faint, irregular distress signal while scanning for fuel nodes, and curiosity, a dangerous kind, had compelled him to investigate. The pod's beacon pulsed weakly. Cale maneuvered his ship closer, the metal groaning under the stress of evasive thruster burns. Finally, he latched onto the pod with magnetic clamps, carefully prying open the hatch. Inside, he found her. She was unconscious, helmet cracked, blood streaking down her metallic armor. But even in her battered state, she radiated authority, a presence that demanded attention without a word. Her hair was a deep violet, her eyes closed, eyelashes dusted with tiny flecks of cosmic debris. Cale didn't know who she was, but he knew she was important. He activated his emergency medical protocols and gently lifted her into his vessel. The ship's cabin was cramped, but Cale managed to secure her in the medical recliner. He worked quickly, setting up nanobot injectors, scanning her vital signs, and stabilizing her respiratory system. "Hang on," he murmured, more to himself than to her. "You're not dying today." Hours passed. Cale maintained her vitals while patching his own ship's minor damages from the debris field. He learned to ignore the gnawing feeling of intrusion, the thought that he was meddling in matters far beyond his understanding. Outside, the stars stretched into a tapestry of light, each one cold and indifferent to the struggle unfolding within his tiny vessel. When she finally stirred, Cale had almost resigned himself to the silence. Her eyes opened slowly, deep amethyst pupils adjusting to the dim light. She blinked, then looked directly at him. Who are you?" Her voice was hoarse, but commanding, carrying a resonance that seemed to reverberate against the very hull of the ship. "Cale Varon," he replied, hands hovering over the control panel. I found you in a pod. You were badly hurt." A faint smile ghosted her lips. "A warrior, and yet you tend to me with such care." Her gaze lingered on him with an intensity that made his chest tighten. "I should be thanking you." "You don't remember?" he asked cautiously. "What happened?" Her eyes clouded. "Fragments. The attack came without warning. My fleet, they were annihilated." She paused, struggling to recall. "I am Commander Lyra Seleth, or at least, I was in command." Cale didn't recognize the name, though her bearing suggested she spoke truth. "You survived, that's what matters." She regarded him thoughtfully. "And you, a mere engineer, helped me live. Few would risk their lives for someone they do not know." He shrugged, trying to hide the weight of her words. "I fix things. Ships, machines, sometimes people. Same difference, I guess." Her lips curved into a wry smile. "And yet, the stars themselves bend to your skill." Cale raised an eyebrow, uncertain if she was jesting or delirious from trauma. "I think you've been out too long," he said lightly. "No," she said, her tone firm. "You may not realize it, but what you've done, it changes the course of events. I command the Arindian Armada. I were defending the core constellation when the Thalaran strike fleet annihilated my flagship. Without my intervention, entire sectors fall into chaos." Cale swallowed hard. The enormity of her words sank like a graviton anchor into his chest. He had helped a fallen warrior, but a warrior who ruled star systems. I didn't know," he said quietly, almost to himself. I was just fixing your life support. Lyra reached out, her hand trembling slightly as she touched the edge of the console near him. Sometimes, she said softly, that is enough. Sometimes, the smallest act can turn the tide of the universe. Kale's ship had no weapons. It had no fleet. It had barely enough fuel to reach the nearest safe harbor. Yet, he felt a strange sense of purpose, a weight settling upon his shoulders that made him feel both insignificant and vital at once. I need to get you somewhere safe, he said, more firmly this time. There's a colony station 3 parsecs from here. It's remote, but it'll buy you time to recover. Lyra nodded, her expression a mixture of gratitude and calculation. Time is precious. They will be coming for me. The Thalorans are relentless. Kale adjusted the ship's trajectory, calculating a route that would avoid patrols and debris clusters. We'll make it, he said with more confidence than he felt. Just hang on. As the ship glided through hyperspace, Lyra rested against the medical recliner, occasionally studying Kale as he worked on the navigation and engine systems. Her questions were sparse at first, measured, but soon she began to probe, curious about this human who had saved her life. You're an engineer, she said, but not just a mechanic. You improvise, adapt, even risk yourself when you need to. That is rare. Kale shrugged again. I've had to survive on my own for a long time. Out here, you learn fast or you die. I guess fixing things just came naturally. Lyra's gaze softened. In my fleet, we value strategy and courage, but sometimes the simplest skill is underestimated. You possess that skill. That is why I am alive today. The hum of the engines filled the silence, but it was not oppressive. Kale found himself talking more freely, sharing fragments of his life. Orphaned on a mining station, apprenticed as a mechanic, dreaming of the stars but never imagining he would be touching them in such a direct way. Lyra listened, nodding occasionally, but mostly she observed him, as if cataloging the subtleties of his presence. By the time the station came into view, Kale felt as if he had known her longer than the mere hours that had passed. But the calm was deceptive. They arrived to find the station tense, its docking bays crowded with refugees and patrols scanning for intruders. Kale maneuvered the ship into a quiet sector, and Lyra, now stronger though still bruised, disembarked with him. Her steps were careful, but there was an unmistakable grace in her movement, a natural authority that even the station guards recognized, though they did not know why. Inside the station's command hub, Lyra accessed the galactic network, sending encrypted messages to the remnants of her fleet. Within moments, responses came, fragmented but hopeful. She was alive, her command intact, and the fight was far from over. Kale watched as she spoke with officers, her voice commanding yet precise, every word carrying weight. And yet, when she turned to him afterward, there was no pretense, no ceremonial posture. She was simply Lyra, the warrior who had been saved by a humble engineer. You risked much to save me, she said quietly. I owe you more than words can express. Kale felt awkward under her gaze. You survived. That's enough. No, she insisted, stepping closer. It is not enough. The Arindian Armada owes you, Kale Varen, and I intend to see that debt honored. You have a choice, return to your life or join me. Help rebuild what was lost. Help protect the core constellation from those who would see it fall. Kale hesitated. His life had been ordinary in its own way, solitary and predictable. Yet, the thought of drifting back into that life now, after touching the edge of something so vast, it seemed impossible. He started, then paused. I can help. I don't fight fleets, but I can fix them. I can make sure ships survive, make sure people survive. Lyra's smile was fleeting but genuine, a rare moment of vulnerability and relief. Then you shall have your place among the stars, Kale. But know this, the universe we fight for is dangerous. Every life saved is a battle won. Every act of courage, a spark against the darkness. Days passed as Kale assisted Lyra and her officers, retrofitting damaged vessels, repairing critical systems, and innovating solutions where others had failed. His ingenuity kept the fleet operational, and word of his contributions spread among the crew. He became more than an engineer. He became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even the smallest acts of skill could influence the fate of worlds. One evening, while repairing the hull of a frigate, Lyra approached him. The station's twin suns cast a soft glow across her armor, revealing scars and marks that spoke of battles fought alone. You changed the course of more than one star system, Kale, she said quietly. Without you, we would have fallen completely. And yet you never asked for recognition. I don't need it, he replied, wiping grease from his hands. I just want to see the work done. People safe. That's enough. Lyra's eyes softened, and for a moment, she seemed almost human. Less commander, less legend, more person. You are remarkable, Kale. Never forget that. Sometimes, those who touch the smallest lives shape the grandest destinies. Kale nodded, feeling the weight of her words sink in. He realized then that life was not about grand gestures alone, but about quiet acts of courage, patience, and skill. And in helping a fallen warrior who commanded the stars, he had unknowingly become part of something far larger than himself, a story that would ripple across the cosmos, a tale of survival, hope, and the power of one human to change the universe. As the rebuilt fleet prepared to depart, Lyra turned to Kale once more. Come with us, she said simply. There are more battles ahead, and more lives to protect. But if you choose, the stars are yours to navigate with me. Kale looked out at the endless expanse, the constellations twinkling with ancient light. A smile tugged at his lips. He had fixed ships, saved lives, and now, perhaps, he would shape the fate of galaxies. I'll come, he said at last, his voice steady. Let's make sure no one else falls. Lyra extended her hand, and he took it. Together, they boarded the flagship. The engines roared to life, casting their light across the empty station. And as the stars stretched before them, Kale understood the truth she had known all along. One act of courage, one skillful hand, could tip the balance of the cosmos. The universe was vast, dangerous, and indifferent, but with Lyra at his side, and his hands on the machines that kept life and hope alive, Kale felt ready to face whatever came next. For in the end, it wasn't glory or recognition that mattered. It was the lives saved, the battles endured, and the courage to rise when all else seemed lost. And so, the engineer and the warrior who commanded the stars set forth into the endless night, their fates intertwined, their story just beginning. The rebuilt flagship glimmered under the twin suns as Kale and Lyra prepared for departure. Around them, the fleet hummed with life, repairs finished, systems checked, crews ready. The station that had once been a refuge now felt alive with purpose, a nexus of hope for those who had survived the Thalaran onslaught. Lyra turned to Kale, her armor polished, her posture commanding, yet there was a softness in her eyes that few had ever seen. You have done more than fix ships, Kale. You've rekindled hope. You've reminded these people, and me, that even in despair, there is strength. Kale shook his head, feeling the weight of her words. I just did what anyone would. Someone had to make sure we all lived to fight another day. No, Lyra said firmly. Not anyone. You. You were here when it mattered most. That is why the stars themselves seemed to align in your favor. The flagship's engines thrummed deeper, echoing like a heartbeat. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, indifferent, yet somehow brighter now, as though recognizing the significance of what had transpired. Kale took a deep breath. So, what happens now? Lyra's gaze swept across the fleet, each ship gleaming like a silver constellation against the void. Now we fight. Not for revenge, not for conquest, but for survival, for the safety of countless lives. And we fight with ingenuity, courage, and hope, the very things you've shown me. Kale smiled, a mixture of humility and resolve. Then I suppose I'm officially enlisted. Lyra chuckled softly, the sound rare and human. I think you were already enlisted the moment you reached for that pod. As the fleet assembled, Lyra stepped onto the bridge, Kale following close behind. From the command center, the galaxies stretched before them, a canvas of possibility. And for the first time, Kale felt that he was not just a solitary engineer in the void, but a participant in something greater. A turning point in history, a chance to safeguard the stars themselves. The communication panel lit up with messages from surviving admirals, fleet captains, and allied colonies. They hailed their commander, unaware of how close they had come to losing her, and how a simple engineer had kept her alive. Kale watched as Lyra's fingers danced over the controls, issuing orders with precision, her voice steady and unwavering. Then she turned to him. Kale, the first mission will take us into the heart of Thalaran space. Dangerous, yes. But it is also necessary. Are you ready? Kale tightened his grip on the railing, looking out at the endless black of space, punctuated by the glitter of distant stars. I've fixed ships for worse odds than this. Let's go save some lives. Lyra nodded, a proud smile touching her lips. Good. Then let the universe see what happens when courage and ingenuity stand together. The engines ignited fully, sending the flagship and its fleet into motion. Trails of light streaked past, bending as hyperspace opened before them. Kale felt the ship vibrate beneath his feet, the hum of power resonating through his body. The stars blurred into streaks of white and gold, and for a moment, the universe felt small, intimate, and alive. He glanced at Lyra. She was calm, focused, yet there was an energy in her that made him believe anything was possible. A warrior who commanded the stars. And beside her, a mere engineer who had refused to look away when it mattered most. The fleet moved as one, cutting through the void, a beacon of resistance against the darkness. And though the battles ahead would test them, Kale knew this truth deep in his bones. Sometimes, the smallest act, the hand that repairs a pod, the mind that thinks when others panic, could ripple outward, reshaping the fate of galaxies. As they disappeared into hyperspace, Lyra placed a hand lightly on Kale's shoulder. One day, the universe will know your name, she said quietly. Kale looked back at her, startled. Do you think I need it? No, Lyra replied, her eyes shining with certainty. The universe doesn't measure worth in fame. It measures it in courage, in action. And you have already proven yours. The stars ahead seemed to twinkle brighter as if acknowledging her words. And in that moment, Kale understood the truth of their journey. This was only the beginning. The battles, the victories, the losses, they all lay ahead, vast as the cosmos itself. But with Lyra at his side, and with his skills, his courage, and his unwavering resolve, he would face them all. Together, the engineer and the fallen warrior-turned-commander surged forward into the unknown, leaving behind fear, doubt, and despair. Ahead lay danger, uncertainty, and infinite possibility. And Kale, for the first time in his life, felt not just alive, but essential. Because the stars were vast, the galaxy unpredictable, and the future unwritten. And yet, in their unity, they had already begun to write a legend, the legend of the engineer who saved a warrior and the warrior who commanded the stars. The flagship roared into the void, engines blazing, and the universe waited and watched, because the story of Kale Varen and Lyra Seleth was only beginning.